Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Om Gungurubhyo Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Aim Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Gananam Tva Ganapatigum Havamahe. Kavim Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrinmannu Divissidasadanam. Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchidanandamurtaye Prapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. Om Yasyatmabhudasya Guruprasadat Aham Vimuktosmi Samsara Bandhad Sarvopadeshtu Shivanandamurte Mridu Agriyukmam Pranadosmi Nityam Dayasindhum Dinabandhum Shastrartha Bodhana Patum Maskarindra Varam Naumi Sri Chidananda Sadgurum. Om Praninam Dukkhahartaro Jnanado Bhuvana Muktaye Shivananda Chidanandau Ashraye Guru Sattamo. Om Sakshadisham Om Shantatmanam Pranada Sulabham Siddhavidya Prabhavam Bhaswadrupam Suguna Nilayam Dastakarmadivargam Prajnavruddham Nijasamadrisham Taradam Tyagivaryam Sakshadisham Mama Guruvaram Shivanandam Natosmi. So I'm asked to speak on the subject Karmangabhuta Upasana according to the Samaveda. The upasanas, most of the upasanas we do are Vaidika upasanas, and they have some connection with the karma. In the Veda, it is called Kandatraya. It is divided into 3 chapters. Usually they say it is 3 chapters: Karma, Upasana and Jnana. Otherwise they call it as Karma, Upastya and Jnana. Karma means, that is action, activity. Upasana is worship or meditation. Jnana means knowledge. And in the Shastras we come across with a distinction between karma and upasana. In the Upanishads, they say the karma is referred by a term avidya, and upasana is referred by the term vidya. Andantama pravishandiye avidyam upasate. Like that, avidya, they call it as avidya, and upasanas are called vidya. Although there is a distinction between karma and upasana, that is a technical distinction. And in fact, all the karma include a certain amount of upasana. Only in the preliminary stage, early stage, there may not be any upasana in the karma. Kevala karma. Such a situation is normally not obtaining. Why? Because whatever spiritual activity we do, whatever spiritual karmas, Shrauta karmas are there, without a touch of upasana, it is impossible to do the karma. When you do the karma, naturally there is an involvement of the mind, intellect, thought, etc. in the karma. Without that, it is impossible to do. So karma and upasana always go together. Although we make a technical difference in the Shastras to explain karma is different and upasana is different. I cannot speak much about the Vaidika karma here because most of us have no knowledge about Vaidika karma. Vaidika karmas, Shrauta karmas, we have no idea of what Shrauta karmas are. And the upasanas that are explained in the Samaveda, in the Chandogya Upanishad and the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, they have a bearing on the Shrauta karmas. So it is very difficult to understand. People may explain this is this, this is this, this is this. What exactly that? It is very difficult to understand. It is not possible to intellectually comprehend that ideas. I give an example which is common, which is known to you and I. The parents take their children when they go to temple, when they do any religious activity, not Shrauta karma. They are not, nobody is doing the Vaidika karma now. We may be doing some spiritual activity in the form of worship, puja, this and that. So normally we have reduced that to the Pauranika karmas, the Pujadi karmas. Our karma means Pujadi karma only. We do not know anything about the Shrauta karmas, not the Smarta karma, the Spruti Prokta karma. The karmas that are enjoined in the Shrutis and in the Smritis are something unknown to the people now. So our karmas are related to some temple going and other things. Even that, normally parents take the child, a small boy of 3 years, 4 years, or a girl, they take to the temple. When the child goes with the parents to the temple, the child has no interest in this temple and other things. It will be looking here and there. And if there is any the shops are there selling balloons, he will be interested in that. You get me that, you get me this ice cream, all these things he will say. And in South India, where the temples are very big with compound and lot of space, the perambulation space will be, a lot of perambulation space will be there. The children will be running here and there. If 2-3 children go, they will play hide and seek. So they will be doing all those things. And the parents, we all did all that way. And the parents, they pull them, hey, come here. Then they take it to the temple, do. He will do like this. Sometimes he will do like this. And so he grows like that. We all did the same way. You think about it, how we have been in when we were children and when we were, parents took us to some spiritual activities, how we behaved, what interest we had. So we all went to the temple, played there and here, look everywhere. And as you grow, then the parents need not tell you, hey, do like this. You yourself go and do this. At least for a fraction of a second, they will go and do this. They close the eyes and they pray. So going to the temple and standing before the idol and doing this is an activity. It is not a total Kevala Upasana. It is an activity, and behind that activity there is a Upasana is also there. Behind all our spiritual activity, you are now coming to the satsang. This is also an activity. You have come here, sitting here and you are hearing. It's an activity. While you are doing that activity, there is a play. You are involved in that mentally, psychologically, emotionally, you are involved in that. So there is an active part, there is a physical activity, and also there is a mental activity. And when there is a mental activity, then what is happening to us? We go to the temple and close our eyes and pray. What is actually happening to us? What does it happen there? People come and say, I came I came there and sat in the Samadhi Mandir. There was so much peace. From where you got that peace? Is it because of just sitting down there? Or because you mentally tuned up yourself to the deity there? What exactly has happened? So beyond the physical activity, beyond the mental activity, something is taking place there. Some change is being produced there. So the karma and upasana and the knowledge part, jnana, although they are technically made different, there is no real demarcation as this is karma and this is upasana and this is jnana. They go together only for all practical purposes, they go together only. When you do a karma, there is inherent in that. There is an upasana and there is knowledge. So karma, upasana and knowledge go together. If you take any Veda mantra, when Sayanacharya interpreted the Veda mantras, he has interpreted totally according to karma only. He has not left any mantra to have a jnana interpretation. Whereas Aurobindo has interpreted everything as jnana. And our Krishnananda Swamiji has rightly said, every mantra has got a meaning at the physical level, at the elemental level. Every mantra has got a meaning at the adhyatmic level, at the individual level, at the micro level, and it has got a meaning at the macro level, and it has got a meaning at the Atidevata level, and it has got a meaning beyond that also. Likewise, any activity we do, that is a little of karma is there, and a little of upasana is there, and little of jnana is also there. Which is prepondering in that, which is more in that, depends upon the person. When Gurudev walks, he walks in the total consciousness. So normally they say that a often quoted shloka is there. Yadyat karma karomi tattadagilam shambho tavaradhanam. How can that karma can be an aradhana? Yadyat karma karomi tattadagilam shambho tavaradhanam. So whatever karma we do, we can convert into aradhana. We can also do it a certain amount of karma and certain amount of aradhana. So that distinction, the karma, upasana, jnana distinction is technical. Like the boundaries. This much area is the Rishikesh. Beyond that is Haridwar. No such boundary is there. It is all man-made. Any day we can change it. We can make this boundary here. From tomorrow onwards, this is Rishikesh and this is Haridwar. Can be made like that. Likewise, it can be this boundary, the demarcation which we make between karma and upasana. And I want those who are studying the Shastras, they should contemplate on these aspects actually. So this karma and upasana, these distinctions, this demarcation is more technical than real. Then, yesterday when Mahamandaleshwar inaugurated this session, he quoted one shloka, which I would like to quote here again. Bhagavan Shankaracharya, having written commentaries for all the Upanishads, Brahma Sutra, Gita, etc. Later on, to those who are not familiar with that, those who cannot afford to go into that depth of knowledge, for them he has made small works. the Prakarana Granthas, the Stotras, etc. Wherever you see his Stotras, you will find the ultimate philosophy underlies those things. The Advaita philosophy will be underlying those things. So in one of his work called the Sadhana Panchaka, which yesterday our Puja Mahamandaleshwar quoted, the first sloka says, Vedas which are prescribed in the Vedas are something unknown to us. It is Greek to us. Even to those who have studied the scriptures, who are very familiar with the Prasthanatrayi, they may not be aware of what is this Vedokta karma, because those days are gone. Unless we have studied the Samhita, unless we have been initiated into this Vaidika karmas, unless he is a Grahastha, he cannot do this. So this is Vedokta karmas, Shrauta karmas are meant only for the householders, and that too those who have studied the Vedas. We have no such experience. We do not know many of the karmas. That is the difficulty in understanding this upasanas mentioned in the Upanishads. And those upasanas may not be useful to us for practical purposes. The spirit of those upasanas we have to understand and apply it to our day-to-day life. I will come to that point later. So here he says, Acharya says, first you study the Vedas, then do the karma according to the Vedas. And why should we do? Tena, by doing such an activity, tena ishasya vidhiyatam apachitihi. Apachiti means puja. So the study of the Vedas and the discharge of the duties that are enjoined in the Vedas is the puja to Bhagavan. It is the worship. It is the upasana. The discharge of the karma, the perfect discharge of the karmas that are prescribed in the Vedas is the puja, is the worship. Apachiti means worship. Here it should be taken as upasana. It is the upasana. And then that leads you kamye madhistyajyatam, and desire, renounce all desires. The upasana ultimately helps us to understand there is nothing to be desired in this world. Nothing to be desired in this world. It is just our ignorance, because our arrogance that we feel that we are separate from that supreme reality, we desire for all unwanted things here. It is your arrogance actually. In your arrogance you consider that I am independent. I am alone. I can do something. I want this. So it is a sheer arrogance actually. That arrogance we call it as ego. So this is what is actually the purpose of all the upasanas, the purpose of all doing the karma is, all the karma originate, the Shastra says, karma, why there is a desire to do karma? Why do we do karma? Phalam anuddishya namando vipravartate. No fool will work without an end result. If you show a banana, the monkey will come. If you pick up a stone, the monkey will go away. So the desire is that which prompts us for activity, whether it is Vaidika karma or any other karma. So the Shastra says, initially there is an ignorance, and that ignorance generates a desire in our mind, avidya. Avidya, kama. It generates a desire in our mind, kama. And kama makes us, the desire prompts us to do an activity. Avidya, kama, karma. So in order to cross over this, you have to start from here. Karmani, karma kashanani. The karmas have to be done to go beyond the karma. All the karma, whether it is Vaidika karma, the Shrauta karma, Smarta karma, or any other karma, whatever karma we are doing, seva and all these things, ultimately the aim of all these things is to get over the karma, meaning to get over the desire, to free ourselves from the desire, to understand that we don't need anything here. And Acharyas define what is upasana. In the Vaishnava Acharyas define it little more specific actually. What is upasana? What do you mean by worship? What do you mean by meditation? People want to meditate. What do you mean by meditation? Is it meditation is sitting and closing the eyes? Upasana means what? So, Ramanujacharya explains upasana. Upasana, he says, is fivefold. What is upasana? We want to pray to God. Whether that prayer alone is upasana or the preparation for that prayer is also amounts to upasana. You take a bath before going to temple. You take a bath. You put some tilak and other things. Why do you do all these things? So Vaishnavacharyas explain it. Ramanujacharya explains what is upasana. Upasana, he says, is fivefold. First he says abhigamana, then upadana, then ijya, then swadhyaya, and finally yoga. Abhigamana, upadana, ijya, swadhyaya, and yoga. Abhigamana means approach. How do you approach to that? How do you approach it? You want to do upasana. You want to meditate. What do? You prepare a seat. Shailajina kuchottaram. And then sit properly. And keep your hands like this. Close your eyes. Sit erect. All these things are there. What are these things? These are whether they are part of upasana or outside upasana. If upasana can be confined to that mental activity alone, what are these things? So, Ramanujacharya explains that the approach to that, the preparations we make, that is upadana. The approach, the preparations we make. We prepare a seat for that, then sit. To do a puja, you take a bath and put new clothes and put some tilak, mark, etc. And prostrate. We come here. Even when we come here, first we come here and prostrate to Gurudev. Why should we do that? Why don't you say, Gurudev, I have all respect for you. I don't want to prostrate. You don't say like that. You come here and do all this prostration. Danda namaskara. Tadvidhi pranibadena padiprashrita. Tadvidhi pranibadena. Why that pranibada? So, Acharya says the preparations, the approach, the preparation, and the ijya means the real worship part, and the study of the scriptures. And yoga they define as devotion. Dasabhava is yoga. All these things constitute the upasana. And whereas Shankaracharya defines upasana. What is upasana? In the Bhumika of the Chandogya Upanishads, in the initial portions, before he begins to comment upon those different upasanas that are mentioned in the Chandogya Upanishad, Acharya says, what is upasana? He says that upasanam tu yata shastra samartidam kinchit alambanam upadaya tasmin samana chitti vritti santanakaranam tad vilakshana pratyaya anantaritam iti visheshaha. What is upasana? He says, upasanam tu yata shastra samartitam kinchit alambanam upadaya. According to the shastras, there are certain supports for you to do the upasana. You can, in the Vamacharas, you can do upasana on anything. You can do upasana, you can meditate even on a dog, on a chair. But that is not a Shastra Samarthita Alambana. So you need a support for upasana. For any upasana, you need a support. You need a deity there to go and worship. If in the Vishwanath Mandir no idol is there, how will you worship? Bhagwan is Nirakara also. He is Sakara and Nirakara. Why not you worship a Nirakara Bhagwan there? If there are no idols in the Vishwanath Mandir, nobody will go there. You need a support actually. So Acharya says that Shastra Samarthitam Kinchid Alambanam Upadaya. According to the Shastras, there are certain alambana is there, certain supports are there. Taking support of those things which are approved by the Shastras, which are approved by the ancients, by the Gurus. Tasminni Samana Chittavritti Santanagaranam. In that continuously focusing on that, continuously contemplating on that, not only continuously contemplating on that, Tadvilakshana Pratyayanandaridam, that which is not connected with that, that which is not that, avoiding those that. Once during Samadhi when Swami Chidananda Maharaj came to Samadhi Mandir, when he was having satsang, when he was giving a talk, he said that remembering God to the exclusion of all other things. You remember God to the exclusion of all other things. And at that time I was conducting classes. I asked those people what Swamiji said. Swamiji said, remember God. No. Swamiji said something more. Do you remember that? Unfortunately, they did not remember that. When Swamiji spoke, actually, he spoke according to Shastras. Sometime everybody will think of God. Sometime you can also think about Brahman. So it is a straight thought. As we think anything, we think about Brahman. We think about God also. That is not upasana. That is Tadvilakshana Pratyaya Anandaritam. When you continuously try to behold that and try to push out those which is not that, that is what is called upasana. That is what is called meditation. As we try to continuously focus on the subject and then not letting anything other than that into the mind. And then what for we do this? And Acharya continues in that bhumika of that, those who are studying the Shastra, studying the Chandogya Upanishad, I request them to go through the bhumika where it is very clearly explained by Acharyas. Then having said that, in the bhumika it comes again. Then he says, Tani etani upasanani, which are the upasanas mentioned in the Chandogya Upanishad. Tani etani upasanani sattva shuddhikaratvena vastu tattva avabhasakatvat advaita jnana upakarakani alambana vishayatvat sukha sadhyani cha. Tani etani upasanani, those upasanas which are all mentioned in these Upanishads and other upasanas which we are doing also. Because most of those upasanas you cannot do. Because we are not doing those karmas. So, whatever upasana we are doing, that, tani etani upasanani, what for it is? Sattva shuddhikaratvena, they bring about purity of the mind. Sattva shuddhikaratvena, vastu tattva avabhasakatvat. It enables us, it helps to reveal the real nature of that supreme reality. Tani etani upasanani सत्त्वशुद्धिकरत्वेन वस्तुतत्व अवभासकत्वात् अद्वैतज्ञान उपकारकाणि. Ultimately it takes to that one principle, Advaita-jnana upakarakani. It helps you to understand the ultimate truth. And then he says, why these upasanas? Why these suppose alambana? Why, what for this alambana? That he says, alambana vishayatvat sukha sadhyanicha. Because you take a support, that is a support is there, it is easy to do. As we walk, we need a support, we need a stick. If you have an umbrella, so you need a support actually. So because there is a alambana vishayatvat, all these upasanas have got some support actually. Because of the support, it is easy to do, because otherwise it is not possible for us to support. Alambana vishayatvat sukha sadhyanicha iti purvam upanyasyante. That is why in the Chandogya Upanishad, initially all these upasanas are mentioned. Vaidika upasanas, the Shrauta karma upasanas are mentioned because of this only. And then Acharya continues, Tatra karmabhyasa dradhikatatvat karma parityagena upasanayeva dukkham chetas samarpanam kartumidi karmanga vishayameva tavat adau upasanam upanyasyate. This bhumika I want of all our sadhus who are meditating, and those who are going through these commentaries, they should take note of this actually. This forms the very basis of all the upasanas mentioned in all the Upanishads, whether it is Ishavasya Upanishad or up to the Brihadaranya Upanishad. You need not make a distinction as to the Chandogya Upanishad upasana. Whatever be the upasana, I will come to that point later. So, Tatra karmabhyasa dradhikatatvat, because we are all karmathas. Karmatha means karmabhyasa dradhikatatvat. Why we are doing karma? Because there is kama. As long as there is desire in our mind, we have to do karma only. So Bhagavan also says it is najatu tishtatya karmagrita. Without karma you cannot continue here, you cannot live here, Bhagavan says. So therefore, karmabhyasa dradhikatatvat, some form of karma we are doing. Those karmas should form the basis for your upasana. The karmas which we are not doing cannot form the basis for our upasana. The karma which you are doing, those karmas should form the basis of our upasana. Karmabhyasa dradhikatatvat karma parityagena upasana eva dukkham chetas samarpanam kartumidi. The karma parityagena, without karma, upasana itself is impracticable. It is Acharya's statement, it is not my statement actually. That's why I taken this quote actually. Karma parityagena upasana eva dukkham chetas samarpanam kartumiti. You cannot fix the mind on a thing where there is no karma. You cannot fix the mind in a place where you don't have an alambana. Alambana, rekita upasana. Itself difficult, very difficult. Therefore, karmanga vishayameva tavat kadu upasana upanyasyante. Therefore, karmanga upasana only is told in the beginning. Now, how do we start the karma? Where the karmas are started in our life. The Shastra, the Vedas, the Shruti and the Smriti speaks about number of karmas. How do we start it? Before the starting of any karma, whether it is a Vaidika karma, whether it is a Shrauta karma or a Smarta karma. Shrauta karma is not possible for a person who is not married. Shrauta karma is possible only for grihasthas. And all the karmas start after Upanayana. So when a boy is given Upanayana, Yajnopavita, the first mantra that is taught to him, you all know, is the Gayatri. And the Gayatri, as you all know, Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tatsavidurvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. So the first sound is Om Bhuhu Bhuvaha. So Om Bhuhu Bhuvaha Swaha. That is the first mantra. And this brahmachari studies the Vedas. And after studying the Veda, when he has completed the studies, the teacher gives him a permission to close his studies and to get married. That function is called Samavartana. Samavartana it is called. So when the studies are over, they do the Samavartana and this boy enters into Grihasthashrama. So normally, according to rituals, the day the person is getting married, they will do the Samavartana nowadays. Samavartana means closing of the studies, meaning that he puts an end, or the travel, the movement from the Brahmacharya ashrama to the Grihasthashrama. That travel is called Samavartana. And in the Chandogya Upanishad, the Samavartana is mentioned in the Upakoshala Vidya. So then, as he gets married, then he has his own fire. There are two fires. One is called the Shrautagni, the other is called the Smartagni. All the karmas, rituals with regard to his child or other things, or the father's ceremony, etc., has to be done in the Smartagni, and all worship has to be done in the Shrautagni. And the Shrautagni, so whatever ritual you do, whichever ritual you do, even here in our Vishwanath Mandir also some rituals are being done. They are all Pauranic rituals, nothing to do with Vaidika karma, nothing to do with Smarta karma. These are all Pauranika. Even in there, when the worship is made in the Agni, the first mantra told is Bhuswaha Agnaye Idannamama, Bhuvaswaha Vayave Idannamama, Suvaswaha Suryaye Idannamama, Bhuvaswaswaha Prajapadaye Idannamama. Then when they conclude this, they will conclude and close it. So the first thing is Bhuswaha Agniye Idannamama. Bhu represents Agni. Bhuvaswaha Vayave Idannamama. Swaswaha or Suvaswaha Surya Idannamama. Bhuvaswaswaha Prajapadaye Idannamama. Many people sit on this havan here, they might not have noticed this. The first Ahudi will be this, and the last Ahudi will also be this. Why this Bhuswaha? Why this Bhuvaswaha? Why this Swaswaha? Om Bhuvaswaha. Why this Bhuhu Bhuvaswaha? These Vyahridis, they call Vyahridi Homa. All our desires are connected with this world. Earthly desires, worldly desires. First of all our desires are worldly. Very seldom we think about something after death. After death, I should go to heaven. After death, I should have something. If that thought comes, means I want Swarga. Then Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Swaha. So these three, all the pleasures of this world and all the pleasures of that which is beyond this are covered by this. Bhuswaha, Bhuvaswaha, Swaswaha. And after that, the Grahastha goes to Vanaprastha ashram, and then he takes to sannyas. When you take to sannyas, what is that is being told to you? What is that Preshocharana mantra? What is that Preshocharana mantra? What that you have been desiring, I renounce those desires, all these earthly desires I renounce. Bhusanyastham maya. That bhuhu, that vyahritis come when you take to sannyas also. Normally this is said only once, but we are all told to say it again and again because that has not sunk into our blood actually. It remains at the lip level. So a day may come, this is a swadhyaya. A day may come, you understand the spirit of this, and it sinks into your being actually. So all the upasanas are symbolically explained here. They call it as paroksha. Even the knowledge Aham Brahmasmi, we say. Aham Brahmasmi, what is Aham Brahmasmi? What do you mean by Aham? What do we understand by Aham? We have some understanding. That understanding of that Aham is body only. You cannot think beyond the body. You cannot think beyond the mind. And what is Brahman? It's a word. It means nothing to us. It is a simple word, that's all. So although we say Aham Brahmasmi, we have never understood it. Yesterday Swamiji also mentioned the same thing. This knowledge is a paroksha. It's a knowledge of the book. But this exercise is required. A day may come that this knowledge becomes a reality. So when a grihastha starts his karma, most of the upasanas deal with the rituals that are part of the Shrauta karma. The Rigveda starts with the first mantra, Agnimile Purokitam Yaknyasya Deva Mrityujam Hotaram Ratna Datamam. The first word is Agni. Then the Yajurveda starts with Ishetva, Urjetva. Isha means the chamata, this samit, this fuel, the firewood. Then the Samaveda starts with Agnaya hi vitaye grinano havyatataye nihota satsi berhishi. So Agnaya hi, invocation of that Agni. And the Atharva Veda concludes, Shamno Devi Rabishtaye Apo Bhavantu Pitaye. Sham means let everything be auspicious to us. So we start with Agni, which we worship, a physical Agni which we worship. And later on, we understand that Agni is there. Then Agni, we have to take it in also. And then all these rituals correspond to something which is sublime actually. I will come to that point later. So when we do a puja, when we do an worship, in that idol there is no God. You have to invoke a God into that. You have to take the God from in and then Avahito bhava sthapido bhava sannihito bhava sannidho bhava avagunthido bhava Bhagavan prasida and all these things are there. So invoke from here to there. And then again you have to take it in. You bring him out and do the puja. and then again take him in. Exactly the similar way, the Agni has to be brought from within and it has to be taken in. Initially, they say the Agni has to be brought by the Jaya, by the wife. The wife has to bring the fire. And in the Upanishad, we say that Manojaya, mind is Jaya, mind is the wife. For a person, the mind is the wife. So when the Smarta Karma they start, they have a fireplace, Havan is there, the Kund. The Agnihotra Vedi, they call it as Agnihotra Vedi. Many of you might not have seen that Agnihotra Vedi. The Agnihotra Vedi will be just like a man lying down. I have seen these things. Just when you look at it, you will find that a man is lying down. Suppose if a person is lying down, you have his head, a circle, and then these shoulders. So the circle and the shoulders are broad. Then it tapers down to bottom. Up to this Jaghana you take. So if a person is lying down, then his head is here and the body is little broader and tapers, and then there is another Agni Kunda there. So here this portion is an Agni Kunda. It is called the Garhapatya Agni. And then the waist portion, there is another Agni Kunda. That is called the Ahavani Agni. And on the right side, there is a semicircular. That is called the Dakshina Agni. So the Garhapatya Agni, then the Ahavani Agni, and this side there is the Dakshina Agni. If you look at it, keep on doing these rituals. A day will come that you understand this is a representation of a human body. It's a representation of the human body. And the fire is maintained in that Garhapatya Agni all the time. From there it is taken to the Ahavani Agni, where all the oblations will be done. After that it will be taken back again to this. So it is preserved there. As long as the man is there, it will be there. When he dies, he will be cremated in that. That Agni on this, we don't place the Agni over the body. On the fire the body is placed. That is the final oblation. As we do oblations into the fire, the final oblation is, I offer myself unto the fire. So that is how it is described actually. So this, when you do this Agnihotra Karma, in course of time, as a child going to the temple, initially he is playing there, but slowly he develops certain interests, and then some of his interest will also be that I should get good marks, so he will pray. And then later on, without that also he will pray. He will pray for others. Then he will pray for no reason. So like that, as we look into this, we understand this. Now you take some of the upasanas in the Chandogya Upanishad. First you take the upasana of Satyagama Japala. The story, everyone knows the story, but what is the spirit behind it? He took some cows and decided to make it into 1,000. He was doing that. Then suddenly one bull speaks to him. A bull speaks to him. Bull gives the Upadesha. Then the fire gives the Upadesha. Then a swan gives the Upadesha. Then a diver bird gives the Upadesha. It looks like a Panchatantra Katha. Panchatantra Katha, when you tell to children, the dog speaks to the cat. The monkey speaks to the tiger. Like that, the rishis tell us that the bull gave Upadesha to Satyakama on philosophy. How can bull give Upadesha to Satyakama? It gives an Upadesha. How can bull speak? It is such a rational text. So many analyses, some of the rational things we can't even understand. The Purva Paksha and the Siddhanta Paksha is so difficult to understand. In that, how the rishis say that a bull speaks to this man, gives Upadesha to the man. And you take the Upakoshala Vidya. Upakoshala Vidya, this boy studying, and the teacher is Satyakama, he got Upadesha from the bull, and his student gets Upadesha from the fire. So this Satyakama, so many other disciples were there. He concluded all their teachings, I have taught you sufficiently enough. You have learned well, you can go back and get married. He sends all the students back. Only this boy remains. And this boy has not been given permission to go back home and to get married. Then the wife asked him, what is that you are doing? This boy is a wonderful boy. He has served us so much. He has protected our fire. This Gargapatya Agni of that Acharya was protected, was every time he cleans that, he makes it, he kindles it and keeps it burning all the time. It has to burn. So the day they get married till the day they die, one of them die. So he keeps it. Then why are you ill-treating this boy? He is devoted to those fires. The fire may curse us. He may not. That boy is suffering. The fire which was protected by him, they will have sympathy for this boy. He has served us so much. So they, because of their love for that boy, they may curse us. Why don't you give him some, why don't you do Samavartana to him? He doesn't say anything, he ran away. Then the boy was suffering. Then the fire starts giving Upadesha. The first Upadesha gives the fire. What does it mean actually? Is it a story or does it mean something to you? As we contemplate, then you will understand the meaning. It is not told, it cannot be told by the teachers. It cannot be explained by words. These upasanas, the effect of these upasanas, passeth all world. It is not something which you can explain. These are inexplicable things. These are some intuitive understanding. Even when the emotions cannot be explained, how do you expect that some transformation that is taking place in you can be explained? So as you do that sincerely, as you keep on going to temple and praying, as you keep on reading Bhagavad, as you keep on reading the Shastras, the Shastra will unfold unto you. The truth will be, it will unfold automatically. But an application is required, a dedication is required. And depending upon the purity, it unfolds actually. So, the Agni, the Gargapatya Agni, tells him, it's a very famous thing, Prano Brahma. The prana is Brahman. Yes, I know, because this body is perishable. All the sense organs, if they are not there, I will survive. If the ear is not there, I will survive. If the hand is cut, I will survive. But if the prana is not there, you cannot survive. So the most essential part, when you identify, normally we identify with the body. Who are you? I am so and so. I hail from such and such a place. I have studied this. So that is the exterior. And then if you draw a little in, these are my ideas. Then little more in, that which supports your life. Then prana, yes. I am ultimately the prana. Prana goes means we are gone. As long as the prana is here, we are here. As long as the prana is gone, everything is gone. If prana is not there, I cannot speak. If prana is not there, I cannot hear. So prana is Brahman, okay, right. Then it says, Kam Brahma, Kam Brahma. The joy is Brahman. That your Swarupa is Ananda. So you are not this merely prana. There is an Ananda in that. So this we can understand intellectually. But in course of time, as we become really genuine, when the seeking is genuine, then the Shastra reveals unto you. Until then it will not really, because these are told after this Upakoshala Vidya, then the Upakoshala goes to the teacher and then teacher says, Akshipurusha Vidya, the person in your eye. The person in your eye is the Brahman. So the Upanishad it comes, but as a brahmachari, when you do the Sandhya Vandana, there also it is taught, Asavadityo Brahma, Asavadityo. This Aditya is Brahman. Because without that Aditya we cannot live. If Aditya is not there for 1 minute, the world will perish. Asavadityo Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi. This is being repeated by all the brahmacharis who do Sandhya Vandana every day 3 times. Asavadityo, that Aditya is Brahman and Aham Brahmasmi. Later on it comes in the Ishavasya Upanishad and other things also. So in the Akshipurusha Vidya, to the Upakoshala, the teacher says that the Purusha in the eye is Brahman. Then he gives an example. And therefore, even not only the Purusha in the eye, the person, the power in the eye is Brahman. And that is why even the seat is so beautiful, so clean, so good. If water is poured into the eye, it will not remain there, it will go away. You cannot stain that. If water is poured into the eye, if water is poured into the mouth, it will go away. Then it will run away. Then it is also mentioned, what Udaka and the Sarpi, ghee is also mentioned. Why ghee is mentioned? Asminne sarpirva udagam va sinchati vartmana eva gacchati. If you pour water into this or ghee into that, it will go away. It will be washed out. It won't remain there. Even that seat is so taintless, so beautiful. The seat of that Brahman, the seat of God is so beautiful, so clean, so pure. Why this is said? Because when an yajna is being done, whether it is Vajapeya or Agni Chayana, the yajna that is taught to Nachiketas by the Yama, that is called Agni Chayana, Garida Chayana it is called, Garida Chayana. So that whatever the yajna being done, the Garida Chayana will take about 6 days. 6 days of worship will be there. And the person who is doing that, he is called the Yajamana. All others, the Ritvaks, those who do the rituals, they are different. There will be 15 others. This is Yajamana. This Yajamana on the first day, after taking bath, when he takes the vow to do this, on his body they will apply butter. Butter will be applied throughout his body. And he should not take bath until the yajna is over and avabrata snana. At that time only he can take bath. In the Bhagavad also there is a mention about this. After the Rajasuya yajna, this Yudhishthira took bath like that. So and there is butter everywhere, and if some ant bites, he should not do this itching, he cannot do like that. There will be a stick, with that stick only he has to do like this. These are all rules actually. So much discipline is there. So when butter is applied everywhere, it will flow and create. But when it enters into the eye, it will not disturb him. So it has connection actually. They know about it actually. It is a practical thing they know. We do not know because we never used to put ghee into this. So every mantra is connected to some form of rituals in the Shrauta Karma. And then what is ultimately the Upadesha? The ultimate Upadesha is, as we come across with the later portions of the Chandogya Upanishad, He Somya, Ima Sarva Prajaha Sanmulaha Sadayatanaha Satpratishtaha. Ima Sarva, whatever you see here, these manifestations are superimposed on something which is beyond all these things, on some cause, and that cause which is imperishable. All these perishable things we see here are supported by something which is imperishable. Sanmulaha, they have got a cause, and that cause is imperishable, that you inquire into. So all these Upadeshas, all these Upasanas ultimately help us to trace back what is the cause of this, from where it has come. Yato vayimani bhutani jayante, ye najatani jivanti, yat prayanti abhi samvisantiti. So that is actually yato vayimani bhutani jayante, from where it has come. Janmadhyasya Janmadhyasya. This actually, this is the intent behind all these upasanas. And these upasanas, verbatim meaning if you take, we will not understand much. So, but all these upasanas ultimately take us. These are all told in a way to convey the meaning actually, to convey the idea and make you think about it. And this thinking alone will not lead us, but somehow you get into that automatically. So the Shastras give an example how it happens, what exactly is required. The Shastras give an example in the form of a small story. And there it says, I have not told it direct, I have mentioned it indirectly. If you are sincere, you will understand this. So then they say, there is a mantra in the Vedas which say, Brahmatmanvat asrijata, the Creator created like him. When the Brahma does not mean the Chaturmukha Brahma, it is that supreme reality. Bahusyam, Ekoham Bahusyam, let me become many, like that. So he created, Atmanvat asrijata, like him he created. Tadakamayata, then he said, Samatmana padyayeti, Atman nitya mantrayata. Then he created children. They were playing. Then he wanted, as father calls, my dear son, come, like that. The mother calls, Atman nitya mantrayata. Hey Atman, come unto me. Come ye unto me, like that. Atman nitya mantrayata, tasmai dashahutam, dasamamuhutam, pratyashrunod. So he keeps on calling, hey, come here, my dear, come. Like that. Someone responded after 10 calls. 10 means many. So he gave him the name, one who responds after 10 calls. Tasmai dashamuhutam pratyashrunod, sadashahuto abhavat. Dashahuto Havai Nama Yesha Nama Dashahutaha. One who responds, one who reciprocates one who hears the call after 10 times calling. Hey, come here, you call. After 10 times he comes. Who is called? One who responds after 10 calls. So, Dashahote tyachakshate parokshena paroksha priya ivahi deva. So, this is a story actually. So, all these upasanas are indirectly told to us. And as we practice these upasanas, as the mind becomes more and more pure, as the mind becomes free from all worldly desires, then naturally the supreme reality within you reveals itself. It reveals itself. It needs a kripa from above. Above all, it needs a kripa from within. So the Atma Kripa, as we practice this, as we do our duties, as we do our seva, as we do the karma, the inherent upasanas in the karma helps us to purify the mind. The purification of the mind is the mind becoming devoid of all desires. And as it happens, then it reveals itself. Hari Om Tat Sat.